Yeah.
Go on.
I was just interested in, you spoke briefly a moment ago about Nun's craft and how it's been somewhat undervalued, or I added that bit in my mind. I guess it's interesting to be, as she was speaking about, in an era of post-feminism and still seeing not only contemporary art done by female artists being a little bit, having to work a bit harder than that of male artists, but at the same time we're still undervaluing pieces as the nuns did. Things that craft uses a pejorative term. Even amateur artists, the word amateur, as you said, becomes a pejorative instead of a lover of art as it's meant to be. Again, a comment, not a question, but if you have any thoughts.
As I said, it's like what I'm thinking, that there's a return to essentialist politics happening now, and I think it's a great, it's an important concern to be post-feminist. No, only two.
I mean, I think that's a great thing because statistically, since the 80s, there was a peak in the 90s where more female artists were being represented by galleries and museums. But recently, it's been the same as the 80s, or even worse. So
I think so too. Also, female art is much cheaper and so on. So no, check out this. I think it's great that Holly Bush are doing a show that's totally explicitly addressing this.
Yeah, and Sherry Levine's retrospective at the Whitney just opened, so that should be exciting. But yeah, I just I worry that art is not so political anymore.
Yes, but that's a super complicated subject, no? Like about agitation and art, because then often it's not art anymore, and
complicated.
So I think it's good to be agitated, and then there are other things that in art that have to do not with politics, and so I think it is complicated. Because in the end also art is about beauty and about aesthetic judgment, I think. But then still we should be organized.
Yes.
I was just wondering, this goes way, way back, but wondering about your first inspirations for wanting to create art in general. What motivated you then? What motivates you now? Why do you continue?
I was studying philosophy, and I didn't like going to the library too often and read secondary literature on Kant. On books that have been, so it was like basically, it has a lot to do with urge to do physical labor. And the urge to be not only reproductive, scholarly, And I think it is like this actually, that I also finished a art history degree and did a PhD, and I think I'm much freer than a normal art historian actually in terms of my thesis, and then what makes me continue, for God, so some things are unconscious. I think it's a profession. I have shows coming up and I have to produce work for them, and it's like, so it becomes a job. And also what makes me continue, it's a quiet place, to produce art, and I enjoy that. And I love my subjects, and it's a journey. So there are new subjects, and it's I love this way of exploring things.
Could you? I'm sorry, this is coming from an art historian, but I've just been recently doing a lot of writing and working in that particular way, and I've just made this transition to the museum world and being around art. and wondering about you as a scholar producing work in writing, a thesis in writing versus creating a thesis in the medium of art, and how you think you express yourself in one way or the other. Does it translate better for you? Does it translate better for the person reading?
Oh God, I think scholarly work is in the realm of truth, and art is not in the realm of truth. I think that's the main difference. And I love the dignity of transparent argument, and of an argument that another person can contradict to, and so on. So that's what I mean with the realm of truth. Art is not part of that. And art, if you say like I don't get it, I say to you, well, I hope you find something else where you get it, or it's like fine. You know? So there's also that it's less convincing art in a way. Yeah. So or convinces different. Yeah, I think it's less convincing. Like. For me, like. Judge. I love to judge, for example, and then to discuss it with people. Yeah. That's the language of discourse. That's not the language of art. There's much weaker art in a way.
At the same time, in art, you're more exposed to the public.
Yes.
So it's also more judgment from part of the public.
Exactly. I give material for others' judgment. That's fine.
You like the confrontation.
Do you find yourself sort of returning constantly to a certain aspect of the philosophers or the philosophy that you studied? Is there a particular element of that which you?
Yeah, I love Kant. I love the critique of judgment. That's very important to me. And in terms of ethics, I love Aristotle.
Okay.
In some of our earlier conversation, we kept coming up with Walter Benjamin. With notions of the reproductivity.
But it's not so important to me, like as a reader. So I find Benjamin very obscure. I find him overly quoted and so on. But but maybe it's involuntarily really close to what I do. Or but in terms of thinking, it's not so important to me.
I have a question concerning more like the techniques, the process behind it, because I'm very interested in that from a restorer point of view. And normally, the engraving, the woodcut process is something that's learned in workshops, and I wanted to hear a little bit about your learning process in this technique, and also of course, I admire the great formats, the very big formats, and you're talking about the labor and the effort that it is, the physical actually, for it. And I just was wondering if you had apprentices, if you, I don't know, or if you prefer to work by yourself, and if maybe the learning process was involved with the
I'm a dilettante.
workshop.
No, there's a German artist called Hab Grieshaber, and he's not known internationally, but he exhibited at 3 early documentas, and he has transported, of course, woodcut is a technique very much also not only of the Middle Ages but also of the 20s, 30s, and he translated that to the 50s, and because he was too young for German expressionism, and he's very important to me. So that's maybe my apprenticeship, that I've looked a lot at his work, and he did very large scale woodcut, and he also has motifs of nuns. There's a series of there's a book called Easter Rite where he's it's a pilgrimage basically, and there's some nuns on some pieces, and he taught these nuns that he carved in return how to do woodcuts, and one of these nuns was my art teacher at school. there was a big woodcut of his, and I think style-wise it's very like 50s Picasso-esque, and I think in every country these Picasso-esque artists exist, no? Like some half abstract. Yeah, but he's like the first artist I knew in my childhood. And I curated a show of his work at Hollybush Gardens last year because he published a magazine called Der Engel der Geschichte, The Angel of History, Benjamin. Text about a Paul Klee painting that's called Der Engel der Geschichte, The Angel of History. And it's with original printmaking by him and his friends, and texts by writers he knew, and always very politicized about, for example, stop whaling, one issue, anti-psychiatry movement, one issue, against the dictatorship in Greece, one issue. So for me it was important to look back at this kind of very subject-related, political, agitated work, because of course the discourse of the political in arts recently was very much about singularity and the sheer structure of the aesthetic judgment as a political act and so on. Yeah. But anyway, that's Hab Grieshaber and that's my apprenticeship.
That's very interesting.
Okay. I think we've covered pretty much.
Yeah. Pretty much everything. Yeah.